Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Maryam Bey, and I'm the host of Television. And today I have another phenomenal guest. His name is Rudolph Drakeford, and he is a reentry coordinator. And we're going to talk about the things that's going on inside our prison systems today, and how we can help brothers and sisters who are coming home from prison and who also have felons. So, Mr. Drakeford, welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate your being here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bey. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Can you tell the audience something about you?
Sure. So again, my name is Rudolph Drakeford. I am the reentry coordinator. I've been doing this line of work for going on 2 decades. It's really a passion of mine that I like to help our brothers and sisters come home.
Right.
So that's a little bit about who I am.
Okay. So what we were saying earlier is that reentry really starts on the inside.
Yes, it does.
And what is happening, what I'm noticing, is that when brothers and sisters come home, they're really not ready to come home because the kinds of things that need to happen to prepare them for the outside is not happening on the inside. And this is something that's been going on that I've noticed because I've been working in this with this career since 2006. So, and when I first started, that was one of the things that I said to the management was like, you know, helping them starts on the inside.
Yes, it does.
You can't bring them to a halfway house and tell them that we have to get them ready in 6 months when they've been incarcerated for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, but you're going to tell us that we have to get them ready in 6 months when you should have gotten them ready while they were inside.
That is correct.
You know.
And that's a big mental health component.
Yes.
That is, they said, you know, most of the people that experience incarceration comes out with a mental issue, and they like to they really need the therapy to really help them manage transitioning from a controlled environment to a non-controlled environment, and it's really like night and day. And I think the transition from one to the other is one of the biggest hurdles they're dealing with, you know, because 2 different environments. One is isolated, closed, and caged in, and the other one is really you can fly your wings wherever you want to go.
Right.
So that transition is from one world to the next is what the brothers and sisters really need help with.
Right. And one of the things I talked about when I was at Delaney Hall, because Delaney Hall is one of the places that I worked at, is that while they were inside to get prepared by, as you said earlier, they need to have their birth certificates, they need to have their social security card. You know, there's so many things that they need so that when they do come home, they'll be able to start functioning, at least have the opportunity to get employment, because you cannot work in most cases, well, in every case without social security card. That's
Correct.
like key. Without ID, that's key. So all those things should be taken care of on the inside. So when they come out, we would be able to help them. Now in the city of Newark, we offer what they call the Newark ID until they're able to get the regular, ID.
Correct.
You know, so in order that gives them the opportunity to work.
Correct.
You know.
And you're right, because the state of New Jersey does require for all individuals to have a state ID to become employed, and they need that social security card because eventually they're going to open up bank accounts, and eventually they're going to do other things that you need to go into a tax-paying society.
Right. Now, have you been incarcerated?
I have for a very short period. I didn't do no years or nothing like that.
Right.
It really exposed me to different individuals in my life, and it allowed me to really reciprocate on the things that I do now, dealing with reentry. I seen the brothers and sisters behind the wall, and I see how they are hurting, whether it's through bad decision making, or whether they're in there and they're falsely incarcerated, or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of where some of my passion comes from too, because I've seen the pain and the strife behind that wall.
Right. Now, having seen that, how does that help you to be a better coordinator?
Well, it helps me in a lot of ways. One is when you see the pain of others up close and personal, where it stems from, it allows you to step back and evaluate that situation and really see what can I do to help others. And that's a part of where some of my passion comes from. A lot of the injustices that we have for the people that's behind the wall, and even the ones that come home, it's a tough situation, and we have to be there for each other.
Right, right. So when you are, this is what I love about you, because when the mayor Baraka had a reentry program in March of this year, and we had to discontinue it for whatever reasons, right? And when we discontinued it, there were like 50 guys or so who we were going to get employment for. And since that didn't happen, of course, they were, many of them were devastated because they were depending on getting this job, right?
Correct.
I called you.
Yes, you did.
I got in contact with Mr. Porter, and Mr. Porter said, well, call Mr. Drakeford.
Yes.
So I called you, and you helped us to get a lot of brothers employed.
Yes, I did, Ms. Bey, and I'm
thank
always,
you for that.
No problem, Ms. Bey. I'm always there for the community. I'm here to help our brothers and sisters transition. It's a dire need in our community. There was an old percentage that I read a while ago, and it said 5% of the criminals commit 95% of their crimes. So I don't want a lot of misconceptions in our communities that there's criminals everywhere.
Right.
Really, it's a small batch of people that do criminal behavior, but because of the media and the news, the way it's displayed, it makes it seem like it's 95% of the time it's occurring when it's only 5% of the population. So because I know that statistic, it puts it pumps blood in my heart to really help our brothers and sisters, because that in itself is an image that they keep portraying on us, and I'm here to help that population.
Right, right. Now, did you grow up in Newark, or where did you grow up?
So I grew up in East Orange. My mother's actually from Newark, from 16th Avenue in Newark. And when my father met my mother, they relocated to East Orange, and I've been in East Orange since.
Okay, okay. Yeah. And your husband?
Yes, I am a husband, happily married, newly married.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
And did you choose reentry, or did it choose you?
To give you the backdrop, I was unemployed. This is going back to the early 2000s. I would say around 2006, 2007, and we had the 2008 market crash a little bit. I was on the market for employment. I was at 50 South Clinton, and looking for employment. There was a lot of brothers and sisters up there who looking for work, didn't know how to do resumes, didn't know how to talk to these people on the phone. So I extended myself in helping the brothers and sisters, and it got the notice of the director from the reentry program, Miss Patricia Sterling at 50 South Clinton. And she asked me if I wanted to help the brothers and sisters out, and as a result of that, I went on board with their reentry program. I'm
so glad that you mentioned that too, because the resumes are so important. I mean, the first time that I looked at a resume from a brother, and his email address was trigger.com.
Oh, wow.
So I said to him, I said, why would you have a resume called trigger.com? I said, what is that all about? So he told me what it was all about. So I said, okay, here's the thing. Keep trigger.com, keep your hood email. Okay? Keep your nickname email, but get a business email.
Correct.
With your name, right? And so then when he gave me his resume, right? I looked at the resume, I said, but this is not a resume, right? So I said, let me create a resume for you. I created the resume, and when I gave it to him, he looked at it and he said, this is me? I said, this is the information that you gave me,
Yes.
and this is what I created for you.
And that's very impactful.
Yes, it is, because he said, wow, this is me. You know?
And sometimes we need that mentor. We need that individual that's going to help us see our life from a different angle.
Yes.
Redoing somebody's resume, coaching them through the job search process, talking to them about interviewing, talking to them about
the interviewing skills is real important.
very important. Attire, what to wear, what not to wear, what to say, what not to say. Teaching the brothers about their background, understanding the laws before you, understanding your charges, understanding all the legal parameters about everything that transpired about you, and relaying that to what your future looks like.
Right.
So understanding all of that and then pointing that towards the direction of where you want to go in life.
And how to respond to the questions, how to
Correct.
ask the questions.
Yes.
That's, that's important.
Correct. And also being able to explain yourself if that question comes up.
Yes.
A lot of brothers and sisters don't know how to say, hey, I have drug charges, or this is why I chose that lifestyle.
Right.
But being able to explain it, but not in a way that's going to demeanor you, but at the same time, not being afraid to talk about it.
Right, exactly.
But at the same time, keeping your focus on where you want to go, and that's employment and better choices and better decision making.
Right. I had a brother, as a matter of fact, it was a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
I was he had just been released from prison.
Okay.
Right, he was there for 17 years.
Wow.
So he had a resume, but the resume that he had, it didn't have 17 years that was in it.
Ooh, okay.
So I said to him, I called him up. I said, well, you're missing. There's a big gap.
Yeah.
In your resume. He said, yeah, well, because I was in prison. I said, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
I said, but when you were in prison, you worked, because everybody in prison has a job.
Correct.
Right? Mm-hmm. So what I want you to do is list me all the jobs that you had while you were in prison and the prisons where you were.
Correct.
Okay? So he said, but then I said, yeah, but how are you going to explain, if you don't put that information in there, how are you going to explain your 17-year gap? Correct. They already know if it's been 17 years, you were probably in prison.
Correct. And that's called keeping it actual and factual. So your resume
actual and factual.
Yes.
Okay.
Your resume should outline who you are regardless of
Exactly.
your circumstances or where you came from.
Right.
So the whole purpose is to move forward and become gainfully employed.
And then the other key thing too is that, which I said to him, I said, look, by your not accepting the fact that you were in prison, you're hiding something too.
Correct.
And you don't want the employer to think that you're hiding anything. So it's better for you to be actual and factual. I didn't say that at the time. That's what you just said.
Correct.
Actual and factual.
That's right.
Right. So this way, I gave him an example. I said, okay, so they'll come to me and say, oh, Ms. Bey, you know what? Mr. Drakeford, he was in prison. I said, oh, I know. He told me that. Oh, he did? Yes, he did. Or, Miss Bey, Mr. Drakeford, he didn't tell us that he was. Oh, he didn't say anything about it. That's going to be, oh, okay. So who do you think I'm going to go with?
The honest person.
And that's what I said to the brother. I said, this is who we have to. This is what we need to do. Because most people want to give them a second chance.
Correct.
But the resume, how you dress, and your attitude is all like impactful to the employer, because before they see you, they don't know that you've been in prison.
Correct. And you see, Ms. Bey, you hit on something that's very important. Everything begins with the end in mind. So I try to teach the clients to keep their mind focused on their end game, whether it's employment, better housing, getting a social security card, your ID, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, your end game is what's the most important thing. Don't focus on what's in front of you. Yes, you have some missing pieces and you want to obtain that, but what's your end game? Let's strive to move forward. So everything begins with the end in mind. I tell it to my clients all the time, and I try to tell them to focus on that. Forget about everything else. Everything else is going to work out.
And here's two things too that I usually tell them, because what I notice, like a lot of them are embarrassed about what they've done, right? And what I said, I use two people. My son's going to laugh at me and everything when I say it, because he already know what I'm going to say. I use two examples. I use Malcolm X, because that's my generation.
Correct.
And I use 50 Cent. And 50 Cent said that he was not embarrassed of his past. He said, don't be embarrassed of your past. He said, because it's his past that made him who he is. Right?
Correct.
Malcolm X said, you may want to keep me as a criminal, but I'm not embarrassed by that. He said, remaining the criminal is the embarrassment.
Wow. That's powerful sentiment.
Yes.
Powerful.
So we have to let them know that whatever it is that you've done in your life, it's your past that is making you who you are, and how you respond to it is who you become.
And be able to speak up about your experiences in life, because that shapes you and molds you to where you want to go in life. And you not being embarrassed about your past allows you to move forward.
Exactly. And what I like too, a lot of brothers who are coming home now, they have their bachelor's degree or their master's degree, and they're working on their PhD. Yeah,
those restrictions of not being able to become educated are not there anymore.
Yes.
It's really unlimited potential, depending on your charge as to what profession you can go into. Right. And I help brothers with that as well. So if a brother come home and he says, hey, Mr. Drakeford, I want to work for, city government or state government, I would go over with him the parameters of where he can go into and how we can get him to that point. And understanding the rehabilitation part, going through the state of New Jersey, getting that rehabilitation certificate from the same people that convicted you, the state of New Jersey. And they're the only ones that can certify, rehabilitate you on documents. And that only just adds to your resume, and also just adds to the value of you moving forward from your past, but not being ashamed of it, but allowing it to be there, stay there. But at the same time, you're able to discuss it without it hurting you.
Right. I remember when I worked at Kentuck, I was the employment counselor. And in order for them to go home, they had to have a job. So many of them didn't go home right away because I didn't give them the job. And the reason why they didn't get the job was because their attitude needed adjustment.
Correct.
And so I would tell them, I'm okay with your being disrespectful to me because I got it. Okay. But I'm not going to send you to an employer like that. And so then once they understood I wasn't there to hurt them, but to help them.
Yes.
They got it right. And then this is what I learned when I was there. I said, you know what? It's how bad you want it.
That's right.
That makes a difference. It doesn't matter where you are. Like they knew, if I want to go home, I'm going to have to do this. This is what Ms. Bey said I have to do, right? And they did it because they wanted badly. They wanted to go home.
And that's that persistence.
And exactly.
So knock on Ms. Bey's door.
That's right.
Every day, say I want
Just
employment.
Come on in.
Eventually, you're going to give in. Eventually, you're going to give justice to that individual. You're going to help them get work because they knock on your door every day.
But not just because they're knocking on my door every day, but because this is what they want.
That passion behind it, that drive, and that end game. They're looking at that end game. Let me get employed. I can get released and go see friends and family and come back into society.
Right. And because now your attitude is changing.
Correct.
Because I talk about attitude, because a good attitude gets you in and a bad attitude gets you out.
That is so correct.
And you don't have to have gone to prison for all that.
Yes.
Because all the stuff that we're talking about, it does not apply just to brothers and sisters who've been in prison. Just in general with a lot of people.
Correct.
How to dress and everything. When you're going on an interview, all of that is real important. And the other key thing that I would say to them that people don't think about, I would tell them, you know what? The most important thing for you to do when you go on an interview is bring some breath mints with you.
Absolutely. I think that's very important, Ms. Bey.
It's very important.
Besides the attire, the attitude, a fresh breath can make a difference.
Yes.
It gives you a sense of confidence. And I think the brothers and sisters would really get a lot further if they followed everything you just mentioned. Definitely, though.
Yeah. So we have a few more minutes, and we're gonna have to wind it up and everything. But with everything that you've done with Reentry, I know this is a passion of yours, as it is a passion of mine, because there is so much that we could do. There's so much unlimited, as you said, possibilities.
Correct.
And I feel so grateful working, with the brothers and sisters, but we need real reentry.
Correct, because if you look at where we're located at right now, we're literally 1.5 miles away from the busiest courthouse in the state of New Jersey, with the highest conviction rate. A lot of brothers and sisters coming and going home, constantly being rearrested. It is a dire need in our community, especially in Essex County, which has the largest reentry population in the state of New Jersey, the busiest courthouse in the state of New Jersey. So these services and this ground roots community work needs to be right here where we at.
Yes. So one of the things that I do know that is real important is housing.
Correct.
Because when you come home, if you don't have any place to go, because a lot of times, especially when brothers and sisters have been in prison for more than 10 years, they come home and the whole neighborhood is different. All their family members are gone.
It is, and that goes into a couple of things. Getting the brothers to understand their credit, because housing does require some credit, depending on where you're trying to live at. Also, the employment piece. In order for them to look for housing, you got to have employment. You got to have verifiable income.
Right.
Also pertaining to their criminal records, there's some limitations with that, depending on where you can and cannot go.
Right.
And this all has to be explained to the brothers and sisters so that they can get to where they want to go. So if they do want to live in a particular neighborhood that requires a decent credit score, and for you not to have no felonies, we explain that to them and we walk them through the process
of the expungement.
Of the expungement process, and also the length of time. So if they have a current felony and the housing is doing a 7-year background check, okay, so now you have to wait till you get outside that parameters.
Right.
And just to go over the background, so there's 3 different types of background. There's a criminal background, as you know. There's a credit background, as you know, and then there's also a social media background.
Oh, they check the social media?
So there was a guy on former ESPN correspondent who was let go by ESPN because he was on Instagram in the strip club. And as a result of his Instagram post, they let him go. So that started the social media background craze that a lot of companies are doing now. So if they go on your social media platform and they see things that they don't agree with, they can let you go. So
That's legal?
That is legal, yes.
Oh,
that is
okay.
legal. It's something that just occurred 2021. So it's very new. Yes.
Wow, interesting. So people have to be real careful now.
You got to be careful what you do out. Also, you got to be mindful what you put out there cannot be deleted, even if you do delete it. It doesn't just jumps out the internet.
Doesn't go away.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So what do you think is next for reentry?
I think reentry needs a lot of different components. You mentioned the mental health. I think that need to be intertwined with some life skills. Also helping them develop their portfolio, their resumes and things of that nature. Also getting all the very important documents, the IDs, social security cards. Re-education could be a component. Mental health is a component. Definitely employment. Employment is a key piece because you need money to survive. You need money to get a roof over your head. You need money to move around. So all of those components need to come in somehow and have to be timed very correctly, where that when the brothers and sisters are ready to transition, it happens simultaneously. Now, there are going to be some hiccups in the road, yes.
Right.
But that's what they have us for, and let us help them manage that.
And I think with President Biden's infrastructure bill that he has, I think that's really key too.
Yes.
Because that's where we can start getting them trained for all of these jobs that's going to be coming available. Because in the Port of Newark, we have a lot of jobs available.
Yes.
And they're looking for people who are qualified, who has their OSHA, their forklift certification, their HVAC certification.
Correct.
Because their CDLs, because they don't look, those jobs do not look at the background.
Correct.
The criminal background.
So now that's a part of when the individual come home that they need to, their end game need to have that re-education. They need to get that skill set. So they just coming home. How do you transition into society? You got to have a fresh skill set. So you just can't say what you did 15 years ago.
Right.
And you just came home from doing 15 years. You need something that's going to say, okay, you're doing something currently, and this is the direction you want to go into, and this is why I want to do this. So you're right. So you're really hitting on a part of training under the Biden administration,
Yes.
where the brothers and sisters really need to take advantage of it.
And here's the thing, when brothers and sisters tell me that they've been in prison for 10 years, and they don't tell me that they have a certificate or a high school diploma or a GED, my response to them is, so why were you actually wasting your time while you were in prison? Because there was something that you could have done if
Correct.
you've been there for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years,
Correct.
and you're going to tell me you don't have your high school diploma.
Now, there is some reentry programs behind the wall where they allow the brothers and sisters to get a form of higher learning and a specific skill set in different states. New Jersey is just not there necessarily yet.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping.
Right. Well, see, here's the thing. One brother told me, he said, Miss Bey, the reason why I didn't get it is because I was moving from prison to prison. Like by the time he signed up for a program, let's say his GED program, they transferred him to another prison. I said, you know what? They do that.
They do that for discomfort, to make sure that you don't get used to your surroundings. And it doesn't allow you to get comfortable. And if they move you around a lot, it kind of breaks up the monotony of whatever's going on. And in this case, he's trying to pursue whatever he is behind the wall. And because they move him every 6 months to a year,
right,
he simply can't do it.
Right. So, okay, so we're getting ready to wrap it up.
Okay.
And I just want you to tell us, just briefly, what is your vision?
So my vision is a strong vision for restorative justice for our brothers and sisters, dealing with the mental health, dealing with the re-education, and creating a taxpayer and getting the brothers and sisters to understand that where we live at here in New Jersey, we're dealing with the busiest port in America. We have some of the highest wages in the state, in all of America. I know the cost of living is a little expensive here, but the jobs are very plentiful here.
Yes.
And a lot of them is not even running backgrounds.
Right.
The opportunity for community re-engagement and for brothers and sisters to come home and really get back on the ball is really up to them. The opportunity is here. We're going to share all that information with them, walk them through the process from A to Z. But besides the mental health component, besides the employment component, the re-education component, I would say for the brothers and sisters, I would say looking at life from a different perspective, changing your mindset, not just carrying that burden of your past, but also talking about your future and looking forward to your future and what's your end game, like where you want to go. Like let's focus talking on that. But don't be afraid to talk about where you have experience, not that.
What brought you to that point?
Exactly.
Right. Yes.
So that's a part of my vision with reentry, and I'm hoping that we can really bring that to the state of New Jersey and the Essex County area.
Right. Me too.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here today.
I'm honored.
And I want to thank you. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters in the audience, for joining us today. And have a great day.